How often do you run on empty? How often do you neglect your day-to-day habits, your routines? How often do you slack in work? And how often do you need a vacation? This is burnout, and it's insanely common, especially today. After years of hustle culture and a worldwide pandemic, adjusting to a whole new world has many of us experiencing some kind of burnout in these last few years. After my son was born, I hit an intense burnout period. I had anxiety. I felt no motivation to do any work, and my sense of responsibility for anything other than survival was at an all-time low. During this time, I knew that I had to do something restful, but I also needed to do something that felt productive to get those gears turning again. So I started with the most simple routine and habit that I could think of, starting a gratitude log. Every day, for 30 days, I decided I would open my computer and just type out one thing I was thankful for. Some days I'd kind of pop a ton in there. I'd start to list out a bunch of things because it was a really good day. Other days, it would be something as simple as having a chair to sit in or having some cold water from the fridge. Something started to happen though around day 12 of this habit. My lists got longer. I started to kind of feel the sense of accomplishment every day. I felt more grateful. I felt less in a fog. And around day 20, I decided to start a new list, an achievement log. This was something that I would fill out at the end of each day, whether it was getting a load of dishes done, taking a walk, or finishing a large project for work. Anything that I had completed during the day would go into this accomplishment log, no matter how small. Again, some days it would be one little thing, like waking up on time or doing the dishes. Other days I would have a lot in there. Some big project I got done at work, a bunch of emails that I had worked my way through that I had been putting it off, some kind of deep cleaning project somewhere in our house. And again, as the days went on, I felt more and more empowered. I felt really proud of myself. I was getting a lot more done than I had been giving myself credit for. I also had a lot more to be thankful for than I originally had thought when I was feeling this burnout. After almost 2 months of logging my gratitudes and my accomplishments, I decided to make a few more lists to help me along the way. Number 1, my if you're feeling sad list. There was a lot of times postpartum that I just felt down. I felt lonely, especially working from home. I just felt like I was sad. I made an if you're feeling angry list. Also, as a stay-at-home mom with 2 very hyper kids, it's easy to let my temper get control of me. I made a feeling overwhelmed list. Same line of thinking, but a little bit of a different emotion. I made an if you're feeling off list. Everyone has those days where they just don't quite feel right. This was one to help me get back on track. And then if I'm feeling bored list. There was a lot of times where I would actually have help. My husband would take the kids for the day. My mom would let my daughter spend the night for the weekend. And I found myself out of things to do. I didn't want to clean. I didn't want to do work, but I kind of felt like I had lost some of my hobbies and some of the things I actually enjoyed doing. So I made myself a list for each of these. Now, these 5 emotions were the ones that I just felt the most when I was at home with the kids while working. Emotions that you're feeling might be very different. So make yourself a list according to those standards and to the emotions that you face day to day. I found that once I had actually established these lists, the act of just pausing to look at them was often enough to just stop that cycle of emotions from dominating my actions. I was able to think clearer, and I could add to my 2 logs during the day to just help me keep everything in perspective. Once I got back into a bit of a regular routine after my postpartum break from work, I made one more list, my trigger list. And this one was actually inspired by another YouTuber, Michelle B, but I couldn't find her original list, so I'm just going to link to her YouTube channel. She's wonderful. If you like this video, you'll like all of hers. But anyways, if you're a mom, you already know that your memory basically goes down the toilet once you have kids. I would so often find myself staring at a blank screen thinking I wanted to add something to my to-do list and I couldn't remember what it was. So I made a trigger list to help me remember some of those most important things. A trigger list is basically just an important practice in my week now. I look at my list and I do a weekly overview. Every Sunday evening, my husband and I sit down and we just go through the week. We plan our dinners, our outings, the kids' schedule, and then we look at the trigger list and see if there's anything that we are forgetting or that needs to be added. This has really helped our marriage, just having this moment to pause together and make sure that we're on the same page going into a new week. I'm now 10 months postpartum, and although we're still very much in a busy season of life, I feel a lot calmer about everything. My days are filled with a lot more joy, and even the mundane things like doing the dishes feels almost like meditation. I feel very well balanced. And even though I can't say it was all just because of these lists, I do think that the daily practices that inspired them, what helped my mindset, and what helped me get out of this feeling of just burnout and tiredness. You can grab my templates to these lists in Notion in the link down in the description box, as well as weekly and daily routines to try out if you're in a burnout period.